So, hey guys, welcome back. Today we're getting into one of the most important topics in recovery: how to tell your partner when you've slipped up. And this episode is inspired by something that happened in our last Unhooked Academy coaching call. Twice a week, we get together as a group. Guys get the opportunity to share their wins, share their accomplishments, and also share their struggles. They get real support on whatever it is they're working through. And in our last call, which happened just a few hours ago, one of the guys shared something that a lot of you are going to relate to, which is that after 6 months of sobriety, he had a slip. And now he was sitting with the question of, how do I tell my partner? And if you've ever been in that situation, you know the fear that comes up. What will she say? How will she react? Will this destroy everything that we've built? And the thought that often sneaks in is, maybe I just don't tell her. Maybe I sweep it under the rug and I hope that she never asks. I just don't want her to feel the pain of knowing that I acted out again. And that's what we're unpacking today. And I want to start with the most important reframe of this whole conversation. The slip, the acting out is not the main event. How you handle it is the main event. So, time and time again, what I hear from partners of people who are struggling with porn addiction and what the research actually backs up is that the behavior itself, as painful as it is rarely the thing that causes the most damage in the relationship. It's the lying and the hiding and the gaslighting. It's that slow erosion of trust that happens when she starts to sense that something's off and you keep telling her that everything's fine. That's what actually breaks the relationship, not the slip, it's the cover up. So if you're thinking about not telling her, I want you to understand exactly what you're choosing. You are not protecting her, you are protecting yourself. So make the commitment to integrity, make the commitment to honesty. Know that spinning a web of lies is never a good idea. And the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. So once you've made that decision to be honest, let's talk about how. So I want to introduce what I call the 4 C's of disclosure. The first C is to choose the right moment. So thinking about when to have this conversation is actually really important. So first, when not to do it. This is not a right before bed because you can't sleep kind of conversation. That's not actually disclosure. Again, that's just offloading your guilt onto her at arguably the worst possible time. Don't do it also right when it happened, when you're still flooded with shame and you're still processing your own strong emotions that are coming up. You also don't want to do it at times like right before she leaves for work. You don't want to do it via text. You don't want to do it just in passing. What you do want to do is, again, find the right time. So you can say something like, hey, I need to talk to you about something important. Can we make time tonight after dinner? What that's doing is that you're signaling that it's serious. It gives her a heads up. And it, most importantly, there, it creates a container for the conversation rather than just ambushing her or doing it and passing it and not giving it a proper container. You want to give her a heads up and find a time when it would be good for her to have a serious conversation. So she's mentally prepared. She has the time and space to actually hear what you're saying. The second C, the second step is to come clean fully. So no minimizing, no saying things like, hey, it wasn't a big deal. You want to avoid spinning the story in order to protect yourself. So one of the most painful experiences for a partner is what I call the slow trickle. And this is where disclosure happens in layers. She finds out a little bit, and then more comes out a week later, and then more comes out after that. And each new piece of information is like a fresh injury. It's like a fresh betrayal. So what you want to do is one clean disclosure. It's like ripping off the Band-Aid. You don't want to do it slowly over a week. You want to just rip off the Band-Aid in one clean go. And here's something worth possibly saying directly to her is, that you don't want to wait for her to ask in order to come clean, that you want to be proactive about being honest and sharing where you're at in your journey with her. One of the biggest sources of pain for partners is finding out that you knew, that you acted out, and you said nothing. And you made the choice about what she gets to know for her. A phrase that I love related to this is integrity isn't just about what you do, it's about who you are in the moments when no one is watching. So just remember that coming clean fully is an important part of this process. The third C is to center her experience, not your guilt. This is a trap that a lot of guys fall into when coming clean is making it too much about yourself. You share the news and then you spend the next hour asking for her to forgive you, needing her to reassure you, processing your own shame, while she's sitting there trying to figure out how she feels. That's not really fair to her. So you've just, in that scenario, you've made her your emotional support therapist in the middle of her own pain. So instead, the move here is to share and then get quiet and let her react and see what comes up. Get curious and have an actual conversation. So you want to avoid being defensive. You want to avoid rushing in to fill the silence. Just hold space for whatever comes up. If she's angry, let her be angry. If she needs time, give her time. Your job in that moment is not to make her feel better. It's to show up and be honest and to hold space. The fourth C, the final step, is to commit to the path, not just make an apology. Every guy in relationship knows that an apology without action is just noise. After all, multiple slips, multiple apologies, she doesn't need to hear that you're sorry. She needs to see that you are still on the path and that the container for your recovery is still intact, that you have accountability, that the program or the coaching or the men's group is still there and you're still showing up for it. The slip did happen, but that doesn't mean that the infrastructure that you've built around it has disappeared. So what you're communicating is that, yes, I slipped and it doesn't define me. And here's the evidence. You don't want to say it doesn't define me and brush it under the rug. You want to show her with your actions that it doesn't define you, that you are still committed, that things are different. Show her with an action plan. Lay out what you're doing to address the slip. Now, some pitfalls here, some common mistakes to avoid, what not to do. And this is important because even guys who understand these 4 C's and can go through that sometimes make these common mistakes. So the first thing to avoid, the first common mistake is waiting too long. Every day that you sit on it, the guilt will compound and the betrayal will be bigger the longer she has to wait. So those extra days that you wait, in a sense, can become their own betrayal. So see if you cannot wait too long. The second common mistake or pitfall to avoid is over-explaining, turning it into a long, hour-long session where you're talking about your triggers and your nervous system and your childhood wounds and yada, yada, yada. Keep it brief and keep it honest. She doesn't need you to go into a deep therapy session. She just needs the truth and to hear that you have a plan to address it. That's it. The last common mistake that I'll mention is when guys have a total shame spiral in front of their partner. So breaking down completely, catastrophizing, making the conversation all about how terrible you feel. Again, by doing that, you're making it all about you, not about her. And if you do that, if you break down completely, then you're making her take care of you, and that's not what she needs in that moment. So do your processing, your emotional processing, dealing with your shame, unpacking it before you have that conversation if you can. If you're in a men's group like the one that I run, Unhooked Academy, you can do it there. If you have a coach or a therapist, do a little bit of processing of your own emotions around it so that when you come clean, you can do it in a grounded way. Now, one final thing I want to say here, this is a very important caveat to this whole situation, this whole question of how to tell your partner when you've slipped up, is that different couples have different agreements, and that really matters. Some partners have explicitly said, I want to know when you slip up. And that might be the agreement that you guys come to. Others are in a relationship where their partner says, I don't need to know all the details. I don't need to know when you slip up. All I need to know is that you're staying consistent, that you're doing your recovery work, that you're still in a group, that you're having some kind of accountability. Both are valid. The important part is that the conversation needs to happen in a calm moment between you two, ideally beforehand, not in the middle of a crisis. So you want to know what the agreement is between you and your partner. Do they want to know every time you slip up? And are you okay with that? Did you guys come to that agreement? Or is it the case where your partner doesn't need to know and just needs to know that you're doing the work? If you haven't had that conversation yet, it's worth having, because what happens is the issues in relationship come from expectations that haven't been fully discussed. If she has the expectation that you will fully come clean every time you slip up, then that's what you need to do. But you guys need to talk about that first. To leave you with something, I just want to leave you with this. The disclosure is not about punishment. It's the practice of being in integrity. It's part of the work. And every time you choose to be honest over protecting yourself, even when it's terrifying and even when you don't know how she'll react, you are doing the work and you are becoming the guy who doesn't hide. So just remember that slip was a moment, but how you handle it is what builds your character. And if you're in the middle of this right now, if you're sitting with a slip and trying to figure out what to do next, I hope that this episode gave you some clarity and some motivation to actually have that conversation. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to commit to honesty and integrity. And that is the most important thing. If this episode hit home for you, please consider sharing it with someone who needs it, or leave a comment below or leave a review for the podcast. All of that really does help support the work that we are doing here with Unhooked Academy. And if you're working through recovery and you do want extra support and community from guys who get it, check out Unhooked Academy. The link is in the description. So that's it for today, folks. I'll see you guys in the next episode.